Hello, welcome to the Hawthorn Cottage Craft podcast. Today is Saturday the 24th of April 2021 and this is episode 47. I'm Kate. You can find me on Instagram as Kate_Hawthorn Cottage Craft, on Ravelry as a runner bean, and we have a Ravelry group for the podcast called Hawthorn Cottage Craft Podcast. I also have a Ko-fi account where you can support the podcast if you so wish. And the details to all these places that you can find me are in the description box below. There are links there. You're very welcome. If you're here for the first time, you're most welcome. It is lovely to see you. I hope you enjoy the content. I hope you enjoy being part of this community. If you do enjoy it, please click the like and subscribe button so that you can be kept up to date with new episodes. And if you're a returning viewer, it is just wonderful to see you back. I always enjoy your company and it's really good to have you here. I hope you have your cuppa as you join me today. It's still quite early morning here. I thought I would try and record while the house was still quiet, so I'm still in my morning cup. So it's the big hefty cup today. Get me through the day. But I wanted to get some time with you before it gets away on me again. It's been a couple of weeks since I recorded and it has just been life. I was reminded of the video I had made a few weeks ago about knitting for mental health, and the past 2 weeks I've had to really dig into that. It's been quite stressful. I think life in general for many people at the minute is quite stressful. And I lost my knitting mojo and just general mojo, I think. So I have spent the last couple of weeks just enjoying time with my family and knitting a little bit here and there. I didn't have the energy or the interest to maybe knit for long periods of time, but I knit a little bit most days, a few rows here, a few rows there, and I did some reading. But there has been a little bit of progress, not a huge amount of progress to show you, so today isn't going to be particularly long. I have a few things I want to show you at the end, things that have come in for prizes in the last week or two, month or two, for our knit-alongs and for giveaways, and I've one other thing I want to show you. But I will start with the little bit of knitting that I have done. The last time I showed you my April Lucky Dip KAL, the KAL that we're running, the knit along, crochet along that we're running in the group at the moment, for all those one skein 100 gram projects. Any of the details are linked. The link to the knit alongs I will put up at the top. You can join in at any point during the year. It's running until the 31st of December and it's just a project a month. And I was really pleased to have got this one done because, as I said the last time, the yarn's not in my comfort zone for colour, and particularly when I have very little mojo anyway, I wasn't sure if I would stick to this, but I did, and I have actually finished. It's off the needles but not blocked, so you'll see it as it is at the moment. I knit the Worth the Fuss shawl by Louise Tilbrook. And the details to the pattern where they can be found are below. All Louise Tilbrook's patterns are on Payhip. She doesn't post her patterns on Ravelry because of accessibility issues. So Payhip is the place to find her patterns, and as I say, it's linked below. But I knit the Worth the Fuss shawl and it was a one skein project. So it is finished. As I said, it's not blocked yet, so you're not seeing it in all its glory. I apologise if I'm not looking in the right place. I realised in the last video that I wasn't looking at the camera. I use my phone to record and I tend to look at the picture of me because I feel as though I'm talking to somebody, but I'm trying to look at the camera, so I might waver a wee bit, but I am trying. This is the shawl and it is beautiful. It has turned out really well. The yarn that I used is Baerenwolle. I don't have the tag with me. Baerenwolle Bomb or Berry Blast, I think was the colourway, and it was from years ago. This was Deep Stash. It was actually my daughter's yarn. She didn't want it anymore. It's not her colour scheme anymore either. But it's a beautiful yarn and it was beautiful to work with. And this is a fabulous shawl project. It is quick. It took me a few weeks, and as I said, when I wasn't really in the form for knitting, it still went in very quickly. It started at this point and just increased, so it's a wedge shape. It's mainly stocking stitch, and then there are repeats of, which are very difficult to see there when it's not blocked, of eyelets just every so often, and it's finished with a deeper piece of eyelet work, and it knit up really quickly. I think I used the needle that was recommended in the pattern, which was a 4mm, and I think I have yarn left, and I think if I were to do it again, I'd probably do it on a 5 or 4.5 just to use all the yarn. Gauge isn't quite as important in a shawl, but I think I could have made it slightly bigger. It does, even before blocking, wrap around. It is a one skein project. It's not meant to be a huge shawl, and I think it feels small to me because most of the shawls I've knit recently have been quite big. But I think once it's blocked, it'll give it a little bit more depth and length. But I'm really pleased with this. This is going to be a gift for a friend for her birthday now in May. I know she likes these colours, and she's one of the few knit-worthy people I would say I have. She really appreciates things that have been made and time and effort that have been put in by hand. So I'm really looking forward to giving this to her. I'm going to block it today and get those eyelets really popping. But if you're new to shawl knitting, this is a perfect project. It's very simple increases, and what I liked about the increases in this particular project, the way they were done, I have quite a stretchy edge, and I think I've said before, even when stitches are slipped at the start of rows and shawls, the edge of my shawl is usually quite tight and pulls it in a little bit, but there's lots of stretch here. It hasn't pulled it in at all, and it'll block really nicely. So that is the Worth the Fuss shawl by Louise Tilbrook, and it's available on Payhip. Really pleased with that. It's nice to have, particularly when maybe the mood wasn't great and the mojo wasn't there, to have something to show at the end of it. I have a half finished object, and that is my sock, my Navigate socks. I have the first sock complete, and this sock pattern is by Marceline Smith, who is Hey Brownberry, and it's a toe-up sock, which is very unusual for me, and it worked a treat. I am really pleased with it. I used my Yarnworks sock ruler gauge to measure, and that was always my difficulty, was measuring where I would need to start my increases for the gusset rather than decreases. I'm confused now because I'm working toe up. Anyway, I knew where to start my increases for the gusset. Because of this, you measure it according to the size of your foot. A few people had contacted me saying that they couldn't quite get that. It's the length of your foot, basically. And I used a sock that I'd already knit as well, just to double check. The screws loosen, and then you just move this up and down and tighten the screw again to your desired length. So I've found this really useful, and it meant that I have a perfectly fitting toe-up sock, which is something I haven't had before, where it's been perfectly fitting. So it was started with Judy's Magic Cast On, and I'll put a tutorial link because I always have to check out the tutorial myself because it's not something I do very often, but I have the link for that in the description box below too. And then it's such a simple pattern. It has what feels like arrows going up the front, and they are just created with purl stitch. And it's a really easy, once you have the first one done, you can really gauge what you need to do. You can read your knitting very, very easily in this pattern. It's a beautifully written pattern. I finished it with a 2x2 rib. And again, I was a bit concerned about the cast off, because anytime I've worked a toe up sock, this flares, and I don't like the flare. But it didn't in this. The pattern that Marce put in was fantastic for that. It gave it stretch but not flare. But as you can see, I haven't the ends woven in. I blocked it simply so that I could show it, because I only finished it. So I'm really, really pleased with this. The yarn that I used is this. It's Rabbit Hole is the colourway, and it's by Bead Sisters. Bead Sisters makes bags, and Blueberry Chick, they're the same company. Blueberry Chick dyes the yarns, Blueberry Chick yarns, getting confused, and it's beautiful, and you'll see more of that later on. So I'm really, really pleased with that. I have the toe, I have the increases done, and I'm almost finished the toe of the second sock. And this was just random yarn. I can't even remember what yarn it was that I had used in socks ages ago, when I keep solid colours, a little bag of solid colours for the cuffs, heels and toes. So that's what I'm working on. And I hopefully will have this pair of socks maybe finished by the end of this month. It's not part of the Lucky Dip KAL, but I'd like to get it finished so that when I draw for the May Lucky Dip, I've got a fresh pair of socks on the needles. So that is the second thing I've worked on. As I said, nothing major worked on, but trying to keep things ticking along. The other thing I got back on the needles was my Forager sweater by Isabel Kramer. As you saw in the last episode, I had started this, made a muddle of my numbers. I hadn't done the appropriate increases, and I had to rip it out, which I did in front of you, but I have got it back on again, and it's going well. I haven't touched it now in, I would say, a week, because I wanted to finish the shawl. I'm working the socks, but now that I'm back on track, and what I did this time, as I said, the patterns are quite wordy at the start, and it's very easy to miss maybe an increase. So I painstakingly, very slowly, as I worked between, once I'd finished working between a stitch marker, I ticked it off, and I just went laboriously through like that, very slowly, doing a section, ticking it off, doing the next bit, ticking it off, just to make sure I was right, and kept checking my numbers. But it's working up nicely. I love this faux cable. No cable needle required, which is fabulous, and it just creates this beautiful pattern. It's down the sleeves and down the middle and down the back, the spine. So it's going to be beautiful. The yarn I'm using is Roots and Rain. It's the Storm DK, and the colour is Black Walnut. Yeah. And I'll link all those things in the description box. I'm knitting it on a 4mm US 6. So once I get past all the increases and the shaping at the top and start to work down the body, it will knit really, really quickly. And I'm looking forward. It's a very soft yarn. It's lovely. It is a 100% wool. It's Corriedale Merino, but because of the merino, there's a real softness. And think this will be lovely to wear. It's very light. And that literally is all the knitting that there is. I did a few rows here and a few rows there. We have to be gentle with ourselves, which seems to be the term of the moment, throughout this, because there's big shifts and big changes and we have to be able to deal with those. I go back to work next week, and I think having isolated so much in the last year, the thought of going back into a crowded retail setting is quite daunting. So my knitting brings me a bit of solace here and there, and that's what I hope your knitting brings to you as well. But let's keep it cheerful. Let's look at something that came in the post. I was approached by Yarnworks, who I bought my sock ruler from. They have I want to keep my notes in front of me here. They have a yarn club called Emma's Yarn Club. And it's her Emma's Yarn Crazy Beautiful Colour Club. All the information for this yarn subscription club is going to be in the details below. And they sent me one of the types of packages that they send out. And it came in this beautiful bag, just a little cotton bag, a little sheepy in the front. And the package that I got was their Emma's Yarn Practically Perfect sock. And it came with, this beautiful skein of sock yarn. It's a 4-ply sock yarn, 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. And this was their April colorway, and it came with this contrasting mini. The subscription club, it's a monthly subscription. You pay at the start of a month. It's you're not tied in, which I think is lovely, because a lot of subscription clubs, you're tied in, you have to pay a huge amount of money, and you might not necessarily want it each month. This one, you can come out of it if you wish at any point. It's at £24.99 a month, which is very good for what you get. There are 5 different options. There's Emma's Yarn Practically Perfect, where you get a skein of yarn. There's the Practically Perfect sock, where you get the skein and a mini. There's Emma's Yarn Super Silky, which is merino silk, which would be perfect for a shawl. And there's Emma's Yarn Simply Spectacular Double Knit, which is a superwash merino nylon DK weight. And then there's another one with the double knit and a mini skein as well. I link obviously the yarn club, where you can find out all these details in more depth on their website. But this is beautiful. They also offer a 10% discount if you buy an older yarn club month, if there's any left, whatever's available. So this is a wonderful club. When you your first order, you get a set of scissors, which is always useful, and you might get like a little packet of sweeties. Can't show you those because those have gone. So it's really good value if you like the surprise of yarn colours. I love blues, so this was lovely colour for me. What else do I need to tell you about it? If you join, there's a face group for the club, for where you see what people are knitting up with each month, and the link is sent to you by email, and it's on your packing slip. The great thing is that Yarnworks have very kindly offered the podcast a discount code. So if you decide that you would like, when you go and have a look at it, if you like the club and want to take part in it, the very first month, if you use the coupon code Hawthorn10, and I'll put that all on the screen here, and it'll be in the link below, just so that you have that, and you get 10% off the first month's subscription. It is a lovely way to try out new yarns. the one thing I didn't check was that if you could change the weight of yarn you get each month. It doesn't always have to be, but that's something you could contact them for and ask. But it's a wonderful subscription, and it's worth going to have a look. And I'm looking forward to putting my yarn into use for another pair of socks. So thank you, Yarnworks, for offering that to the podcast. The last thing I want to do, and it's a very important thing, is show you all the packages that have come in for you for prizes for the knit-alongs and the giveaways throughout the year. People have been so generous in offering these, and if you are a maker, yarn dyer, bag maker, stitch marker maker, anything yarny related that you make, pattern writer, designer, feel free to contact me, and I'm more than happy to add your things to this list and to show off your work as well. So I'm really delighted with what I've got. The first thing is actually something I've added in to the prize pile, and it's this book, Sock Yarn Shawls, and it's one skein projects. So by the time whenever we've finished this and you still have single skeins left, it'll give you an idea of different things, different patterns. Just a bit like my Worth the Fuss shawl. There's lots of different ideas. And that is in the prize pile. But things that have been sent to me, they're just beautiful. About a month ago, Roots and Rain, who you know, I love her yarn, I had an update and I had bought some sock yarn from her, and she sent an extra skein along with it for you, and it's this Roots and Rain Field Sock. And I'm really excited to use my skein of this, and I'm really excited to pass this one on to you because it's sport weight, and sport weight's not I don't think I've ever knit socks in anything other than fingering weight. So I'm really looking forward to this. And Donna also has a pattern to use this. She created a pattern for the use of this yarn, and that will also be with this skein when it goes up. There's a little stitch marker. So it's dyed with marigold and chestnut. So it's all naturally dyed. And thank you so much, Donna, for donating that to the podcast. Somebody will be very, very fortunate to get this. I was contacted by Catherine, who's the Crafternoon Treats podcast, and if you haven't checked out her podcast, you should. It's a wonderful podcast, very varied in her content, and just another one of those ones where you go in and you feel as though you're just having a chat. But she sent 2 packages. I apologise for the crinkling, but I don't want to take them out of the packaging. She sent a beautiful minis set sock treat. It's Corriedale Polworth and nylon, and those colours are divine. So it's a mini skein set. You could knit a shawl with this. You could use it for scrappy socks. Endless what you could use this for. You could use it as contrast colours in a colour work. That would be actually beautiful as your minis for a colour work piece of work. And there's some tea in there and some stitch markers. So that'll be a lovely package for someone. And this beautiful set. So again, this is the same base. It's Corriedale Polworth and nylon. And it's 2 full skeins. Just trying to glare for the colour. And some tea, and again some stitch markers. So that is a beautiful package of her yarn. It's mint julep and PJ Party as the colours. Look at those greens. So those are fabulous prizes, and thank you very much, Catherine, for the donation of those to the podcast. Really looking forward to someone being able to get their hands on those. And a viewer had already donated a skein of Bear and Sheep's clothing, and she'd also added this one in. So this will be there for someone, and It's the Bare Sturdy, and I've knit with this socks in this, and they wear so well. The colour's Boutique. It's 100% superwash BFL. And it's a beautiful yarn. Beautiful colours. So that's in the stash for prizes. A few episodes ago, you'd have seen a pair of socks that I'd finished in Arctic Crafts yarn by Bente. Bente has a podcast, and I'll link it below. And she donated this beautiful skein of yarn to the prize pile. Kaleidoscope is the colourway. It's a worsted weight, and it's 100% Falkland Merino. So it's very soft. This would make a beautiful autumn hat. And there's also, in a little bag, there's a little stitch marker. It's a butterfly. Just keep tucked in there. So this is Arctic Crafts by Bente. You should check out her shop as well. Her yarns are beautiful colours. As I said earlier, the yarn that I was using to knit my Navigate socks was from Bead Sisters and Blueberry Chick Yarns, and they had donated another bag that has been won from the other KAL that we had run, but they've donated this one too, and isn't that just so cute? And their bags are so well made. I use a little one for my socks, and they're gorgeous. And the ash colourway fingering weight yarn, so that comes as a package. So somebody in the future will win this beautiful package. And then the last, but by no means least, Baubles and Berries approached me. They are you based in Scotland? I think you're based in Scotland. And she sent 2 bags for the podcast, and these are gorgeous. So, a little drawstring bag with a really good deep base, which is really handy. This would hold a lot. This would hold 2 or 3 skeins easily, plus your project, I would think. So Baubles and Berries, check her out on Instagram, and I'll link her below. And the lining is like paper patterns for sewing, and there's a little pouch for your notions as well. So she has that one, and she donated a second one as well, which was so kind and generous. And oh, look at that green. Oh, that green makes my heart sing. It's my favourite shade of green. And this one has a beautiful thistle lining. So those are all going into the prizes for the lucky Dip KAL and maybe some other giveaways that happen during the year. Thank you again so much to everybody who sent packages and parcels for the podcast. I am more than happy, as I said, to show them off and then pass them on to all of you. That really is it today. I'm sorry it's so short, that the knitting content was so light and maybe a little bit disjointed in delivery, but it's just the way things are at the moment. Hopefully by the next time there will be a sense of calm again, and we'll just get back into the rhythm again. But I hope you have a lovely day. I hope you have a lovely Saturday if you're watching this today. It's gorgeous weather here, and I think today it's time to get out and have a good walk, clear the cobwebs, and hopefully I will see you very soon. There should be a coffee with Kate coming up in the next week. Get back into the rhythm of that again too. And until then, happy knitting, and I'll talk to you soon.